guys, welcome. Tuesday, April 13th, quarter 4, week 3, lesson 7. Today we're going to talk again about Legion, this time not from the book of Mark, from a different perspective, from Luke. So let's dive in. We're going to skip our question of the day and we're going to just dive right into prayer. Pause here and pray for these people in 5th, and pause here and pray for these in 6th. All right, thanks for praying. Right now, we are going to dive into our lesson in the book of Luke. Remember, you can see this this timeline pointing to the cross because Luke tells things in chronological order. He's also super detailed because he's a medical doctor. Here's our verse, and remember, you're going to repeat it. Let's see if it works. You're going to repeat after me. I need to hear you guys, even if I'm not in the room. Say it loud and proud. Practice it. Mr. Stilo or whoever's in the room, would you please give CIAs to people who are doing a good job? Here we go. But I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. To the one who strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from one takes away your cloak, do not withhold your hand either. Give to everyone who begs from you, and from one who takes away your goods, do not demand them back. And as you wish that others do to you, do so to them. Nice job, guys. And you know this one. It's on your note. It's in your notes. What should you do to those who beg from you? You should give to them. Write it down. What should you do if someone takes your things? Do not demand your things back. How should you treat others? You know it. Treat others as you wish to be treated. Something was wrong with my slides today, so you didn't get to answer them. The answer's already there for you. Here we go. Pause it if you need to. I'm going to move on. Here's our pattern statement. Circumstances can influence people and events, producing change. Well, there's going to be 3 groups of people in our text today, and some are going to change in a good way, and some are going to change in a bad way. And the same circumstances in one case changes people in different ways. Interesting. Pause it if you need to. I'm going to move on. Today's lesson is to identify those main events and order them on a plot line. We are going to watch this video in a little bit, but first, your job is to read this text. We're going to read it together, and then we're going to write it on our plot line. Your exit ticket is to choose the multiple choice answers for this plot line. Now, I will talk you through this today in the video, but I'm not going to write it down for you today. Yesterday, we wrote it together. Today, you need to do more on your own independently. So let's dive in. You will notice as you read the text today that there are actually almost 3 different stories here. The first story takes place in that first paragraph, and you can see verse 26 there's a little bit of a space between those 2. So the second story begins in verse 26. And then the third story begins really here in verse 34. So let's take a look at the first part of our text today. And when you think of the problem and goal, I want you to think of what all 3 stories have in common as a problem or a goal. Okay, here it is. First story. One day he, that is Jesus, got into a boat with his disciples, and he said to them, "Let's go across to the other side of the lake." So they set out, and as they sailed, he fell asleep. And a windstorm came down on the lake, and they were filling with water, and were in danger. And they went and woke him, saying, "Master, Master, we're perishing." And he awoke and rebuked the wind and the raging waves, and they ceased, and there was a calm. He said to them, "Where is your faith?" And they were afraid, and they marveled, saying to one another, "Who then is this, that he commands even the winds and water, and they obey him?" Okay, we're going to pause. That's our first story. You may have heard a setting and some characters. So go ahead and pause the video and write down setting and characters for this story. You're going to include them all in the same box for setting and characters for all 3 stories, okay? Go ahead. Okay, you guys should have written something like boat or lake. And the characters, you should have written something like Jesus and disciples. Okay? We're not going to write a problem or goal yet because we're going to wait until we see the whole story. But let's go ahead and do our first event. What's the most important thing that happened first? Pause the video, discuss, and then unpause it to hear the answer. Okay, you should have said something like Jesus was on a boat or Jesus was sailing with his disciples and he fell asleep. So you should have something like Jesus was on a boat and fell asleep. Okay, second event. Let's go ahead and use this same first story for the second event. What happened after he fell asleep? It was a really big deal. Pause the video, discuss, and then check and see if you're right. Okay, you should have had something like the disciples woke him up, Jesus calmed the storm, but they were afraid. If you have any of those pieces or all of it, good for you. Make sure you fill it in with all of it. So Jesus, the disciples woke him up, he calmed the storm, but they were still afraid. All right, now let's move on to our next story, which is starting here in verse 26. Then they sailed to the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite of Galilee. Ooh, I just heard another setting. When Jesus had stepped out on land, there met him a man from the city who had demons. For a long time he had worn no clothes and had not lived in a house but among the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell down before him and said with a loud voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For many a time it had seized him. He was kept under guard and bound with chains and shackles, but he'd break the bonds and be driven by the demon into the desert. Jesus then asked him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Legion," for many demons had entered him. And they begged him not to command them to depart into the abyss. Now a large herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside, and they begged him to let them enter these. So Jesus gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the pigs, and the herd rushed down to the steep bank to the lake and drowned. Let's go back up to our characters and setting, pause it, and add more. Okay, great. For characters, you should have included the man named Legion, and for setting, you should have included the place called Gerasenes, okay? Now go up to your next main event. What's the next main event? The first thing that happened in this, so event number 3 is what? What's an important event? Pause the video, discuss, and see if you come up with the correct answer. Okay, you guys should have come up with something as simple as Legion met Jesus. Okay? What's the next event after Legion meets Jesus? What's the next main event? Pause it, discuss, and then come back. Okay, you guys should have had something like the demons asked Jesus to go into the pigs. Go ahead, pause the... Oh, by the way, I just want to tell you something real quick. The word abyss in verse 31, I looked it up in a commentary, and it says, the final destination of Satan and his angels. So these demons are begging Jesus not to send them to their eternal punishment because they know eventually one day they're going to be sent into this abyss, this place of hell. And they begged him not to go there yet. And Jesus said, okay, I'll let you go into pigs. Interesting. Wonder why Jesus did that. The Bible doesn't tell us why, but one thing that's interesting about the pigs is that, did you know that pigs were forbidden for Jews to eat? So Jews couldn't have bacon or ham. So interesting that they went into pigs. So we have our next event. Event number 3 was Legion meets Jesus. And then 4 is the demons ask them to go into the pigs. All right, let's keep reading. Now we've got 2 stories so far. Our first story is the water story with the waves and the disciples being afraid. The second is this thing about Legion and the demons are begging Jesus to let them go into the pigs, and Jesus listens. And now we have this third story, verse 34. When the herdsmen saw what had happened, they fled and told it in the city and in the country. Then people went out to see what had happened, and they came to Jesus and found the man from whom the demons had gone sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Ooh, I keep hearing that word. And those who had seen it told them how the demon-possessed man had been healed. Then all the people of the surrounding country of the Gerasenes asked him to depart from them, for they were seized with great fear. Ooh, there it is again. So he got into the boat and returned. The man from whom the demons had gone begged that he might be with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your home and declare how much God has done for you." And he went away, proclaiming throughout the whole city how much Jesus had done for him. Wow, that's the third section, and I heard another main character. Can you name for me another main character? Pause it, discuss, and then come back. Okay, it was the herdsman. That's the other main character. And then you don't need to put the boat again because we already have that down. You don't even need to have the city because this story is really just taking place in the Gerasenes. Okay, the next event, so now we have event number 5. What happened with the herdsmen? What did they do? Pause it, discuss, come back. Okay, you should have had something like the herdsmen were afraid and they told everybody what happened. Then, the 6th event, what was Legion doing? So we've got disciples doing things, we've got demons doing things, we've got herdsmen doing things. Number 6, what was Legion, this man, doing? Pause it, discuss, come back. Good. Event number 6, Legion was sitting at Jesus' feet. The climax of this whole story is different. Usually we think the climax is when the demons go into the pigs, but I'm going to argue that we have to use all 3 stories together. So if we use the story of the water and the fear, the pigs, the demons going to the pigs and being afraid and asking Jesus for permission, and if we use the story of the herdsmen being afraid, what is the climax? Because they're all afraid, what? The climax is the people ask Jesus to leave. What's the problem or goal then? If that's the climax, what's the problem or goal? Well, people, I would argue that there's a problem. And the problem is people, they don't know what. In my thinking, I'm going to say people don't know what to do with Jesus. They don't know how to respond to him. They don't know how to handle him. They don't know what to think and feel about him. In fact, many of them just feel afraid because they don't know what else to do. Resolution is what happens at the very end. And I want you to think about what happens with the man, the demon-possessed man, and then the denouement is the very last quote of the text, okay? Guys, you are going to write those 2 pieces down, your conclusion and your denouement. What happened at the very end? What did Jesus do? And then the denouement is the very last sentence. Okay, then you're going to go to your exit ticket. Your exit ticket is going to use your plot line exactly as you just did it. And you are going to choose the correct answer on the multiple choice, all right? Guys, have a great day. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.